All right, I wanted to do a quick video, a rundown of what's in my stick bag and what I think makes for an effective stick bag. Just some quick context on me if you don't already know. I'm a I'm a singing drummer in an original jazz rock band. And so I do have to switch between brushes, dowels, sticks, and mallets within the course of a given song. And so that is one thing that you'll notice. But beyond that, I'm going to talk about what I think are the essentials and what I think are the sort of nice to haves that I've added to the bag over the years. And let's take a look. Okay, first the bag itself. This is a fairly big stick bag because I do have a fair number of things. It's a sort of SKB Deluxe bag. I like it when stick bags have got a good solid heft to them and that they can stand up a little bit, but also that they can easily be wrapped and tied to the floor tom for some easy retrieval in addition to whatever stick caddies you might have. So let's start with what I think are my most essentials. Okay, so number one thing any stick bag is going to need are some sticks. You need minimum 2 pairs of whatever gauge you favor playing. Right now for me, that is a Zildjian Hickory 7A barrel tip wood tip. Number 2 thing that you need, a drum key. At all times, just a standard drum key will do if you have nothing else. So many things require that you're going to need to make unanticipated adjustments. Next thing that I require, if I only get one, I've got to have some brushes. And if I only get one set of brushes, I want a nice, fine, soft wire brush set with a retractable handle, since for me, both using this handle to tap on the bell of a cymbal and also to scrape across the lathing is a very important technique that I don't want to do without. For me personally, these are Vater wiretap with wood handles. I like these a lot for the softness of the wire. Next thing for me are dowel rods. I like hot rods. These hold up for a long time and they have a great sound and an easy grip. For me, the next thing would be some kind of mallet. And I favor a fairly small mallet just to light up cymbals. I'm using the Vic Firth 5A dual tone because on the other end is a 5A wood tip. So that allows me to have one thing in my hand, flip it around, do a little trash can ending, or just resume playing if I'm going to be using the mallets extensively. So with these essential components in hand, let me talk about some extras that I then add in. Okay, so within my sticks, the next thing I'm going to want are a couple of alternative sticks. I'll have one pair of nylon tips. I've gotten away from playing nylon tips. I've come to prefer the sound of wood on cymbals as opposed to the extra sort of high-end zing of nylon tips. And I like to have one pair of sticks of my standard variety or my standard weight and style that have grips in the event that I'm playing, in 100 degrees outside and I need a little extra grip to keep it going. Beyond that, I'm going to want to have a lot, as many as I can fit, of extra sticks of my chosen variety. In my particular case, I have enough room to have a second variety of stick that I like, is the Vic Firth American Classic 8D, again, a wood tip. And I like to have one pair of like junker sticks in case I'm sharing a bill and someone says, hey man, do you have some sticks? And I don't really want them to go through my good ones, but instead I'll just give them something good to play. All right, so let's look at some alternative brushes. All right, so as I mentioned, my most versatile set of brushes would be these Vater wire taps rather, with the retractable handle. The brush I use the most, which is not quite as versatile for a reason I'll get into in a minute, is actually the Vic Firth live wires. What I like about these is you can see here at the end of each strand there's actually like a little extra bead. These are very gritty. They really light up the texture of the snare head I prefer, which is the Jack DeJohnette with some extra coating to it. It's really nice for brushes. But they are a little loud and they're a little raky at times, and so not having the option, I can always play with just a regular brush. This is sort of a treat and enhances some things I'm going to do, but I wouldn't want it to be the only choice I had. And then the other set of brushes that I especially like are these Vater Polyflex. They're a nylon brush, really nice, soft quality. They sound very wire-like, but they also have a nice long reach, and they have enough weight to them that they really get a cymbal moving. I will tend to carry one extra set of just regular brushes in the event that I drop a brush where I can't reach it, or again, some other drummer says, hey, can I borrow a pair of, I don't really want people monkeying around with my good ones, so I'll have an extra set that's just a standard issue set. Let's talk a little bit about dowels now. Okay, so it's really important to me to have a good set of dowels, and my favorite by far are the Hot Rods, the Promark Hot Rods, for the reasons I mentioned. And these are just their medium gauge ones, the standard ones you'll see most frequently available. Really nice tone, really good feel, fairly durable, and a really nice grip. My second favorite for a sort of change of pace are the Vater Whips. I specifically like the new version of the wood handle that has a metal collar, and then a stiff set of plastic rods. The prior version of this, the rods were a little soft, as some Vater bundles are, and would sort of bend during the course of play. They'd like start to curl, which I really didn't like. I'd have these things to tie them together. I also, because the rods are so important to me, I of course will carry one extra set. And I'll typically just break out a new pair and then retire my old pair that's starting to, you know, get a few nicks and cuts here, or a few broken ends here and there. Okay, so I'm just going to launch straight into mallets because I don't have much to say. I already talked about the advantages of using these. I will carry one extra set. This is something that arguably I don't need to do, but these are just timpani mallets as a backup. Again, if I drop something where I can't reach it, I could grab one of these. These are just Vic Firth T1 timpani mallets. All right, so now that I've talked about the sticks that I want in there, let me turn my attention instead to some of the tools that I think are both essential or just nice to have. So obviously you need to have a drum key, but then what else is good to have? I like having a little flashlight. This one has a drum key on a keychain. Super useful trying to read the board in the dark, trying to do anything in the dark. Stages are dark in general. Can't believe that I haven't had this in the bag longer than I have, but that's a great new addition I have. I like this kind of multi-tool. It's got a whole bunch of things. You know, if you're suddenly stuck on a house kit where you've got to change the snare bed, or you got to change the strings that hold the snares up. If you don't have a flathead screwdriver, you can't do that, or you don't have the right kind of tool. This is a flathead, a phillips, Allen wrenches, etc. Doesn't take up much space. Good thing to have for unanticipated. I like a ratchet style drum key for the actual business of changing heads. This kind of key takes a long time to take a head off. This is much faster. Obviously not as fast as a drill, but still. I happen to carry a conga wrench just from having to take congas sometimes, but I actually probably could retire this. But obviously, let's let this stand in for any specialized tool for any specialized instrument that you might be carrying. Now let's talk about some spare parts and other accoutrements like that. Okay, you can't carry a spare for everything, but there's certain things that I've run into more often than not. And for me, the highest priority of those things, although I won't prioritize all of these, is cymbal protection. So I like to carry, a spare cymbal sleeve, just in the event that I've got to put something up on a stand that doesn't even have that. I'll also carry one of this style. I'll carry one disc for a bottom hat. Then I'll carry a couple other things. One of the most useful ones I've had to carry is a spare clutch. I learned this lesson the hard way. I was actually at a studio in a session here in Portland, and the house kit, some band had walked off with their clutch. They didn't have it, and fortunately I had a different kind of spare that I used to mount a toy that I'll be showing you later. But ever since then, I just always carry an extra clutch for house kits. These aren't the most necessary, but for my china, I've got to be able to tighten it down a little bit, so make sure I carry a couple of those, carry an extra nut for a clutch, although with this extra clutch, I probably could just get rid of that. I do like this style of the Tama quick release cymbal nut. And then getting into sort of in general, I have room in my bag to carry like one of these survival kit things. So a bunch of felts, a bunch of soft sleeves, an impact pad, I don't know if you can see this, but some snare string, a whole bunch of just general stuff. It's got a couple tension rods and washers, just whatever's missing, you might have a good shot at fixing it real quick. So now we're talking about a different kind of nice to have, and some of these kind of bridge the gap between being tools and being just other miscellaneous things that I carry. Should have talked about this earlier, but I do carry around earplugs, and that's probably a little higher in the priority list. You never know, like you're walking into a situation if it's going to be a super loud room, if the other bands are going to be real loud. I'm not that loud a player anymore, and I don't necessarily, arguably I should, but I don't necessarily wear earplugs when I play anymore, but I do always carry them. I don't much care for moon gels, but they're small, and sometimes you need something like that. So I do carry a cup of moon gels. What I prefer over moon gels is this. So the snare I normally use is a vintage Ludwig that has an internal mute. I don't know if you can see this, but this is the next best thing. So this clips onto the outside rim of a snare, and then this very thin felt pad provides a little bit of dampening to get that little bit deader, eliminate overtones, eliminate ring, and also get a little bit of a muted sound, which is kind of what I like. So I'll put this on a ringy snare if I happen to bring like my Black Panther or something like that. This kind of does the trick to dial it in. Another thing that's easy to carry that you got, so I'll take a cymbal sleeve, I'll keep a couple of these just for the purpose of curling around the underside of the bass drum hoop and letting the claws on the bass pedal bite into this instead of directly into the wood. That's a good little hack and something that I like to carry around. I always carry some business cards because otherwise I forget that I have them. I like to carry a pen just in case. I also carry some paper. This has a set list of some reminder notes of songs I have memorized and also some cues for a couple verses that I always have a little trouble remembering in the moment. And I can write on the back of it if I'm in a situation where I need to take some hasty notes. Me personally, I always sing with a cough drop. So every bag I take, my guitar bag, cymbal bag, or not my cymbal bag, but any stick bag, has to have some cough drops for me to be able to perform. Just a handful of little quick fun things to round it out. I like to take a shaker egg. I don't use that very often, but then I've got it when I want it. I like these little Meinl hi-hat mounted tambourines. You can strike this. It's a really, great tambourine sound in a very compact package. Gives a little extra shake to when you're using the pedal on the hi-hat. And then finally, I stole this idea from Jay Harris, great jazz drummer here in Portland, a good buddy of mine. He has this little 4-inch splash, and it took me forever to find one. They don't, these were a sort of a limited run. He has a prototype, and I was able finally to find one, but this little 4-inch accent, it's kind of like a bell. It's also like something my buddy Trent Davis will make himself from broken cymbals, from broken splash cymbals. He'll just cut out the bell and make these sort of chime arrays that are really cool. So I have like one of those on my big kit upstairs, but I carry this with me to gigs. And to mount it, I carry this very simple secondary clutch. It's 2 felts, and you just unscrew this and put the cymbal there and then mount it above your hi-hat. And this is what I had to use as an emergency clutch in that session where the clutch was missing. So that is basically everything in my bag, and would love to hear from you if you've got something that you think you're a drummer and you've got something in your bag that I haven't thought of, a great tool or a different kind of stick or something fun that can fit in the side pouches. All right, so take it easy, and hope you enjoyed this video.